I don't know if I'm feeling the Christmas tree this year, to be honest.
I didn't even want to put a Christmas tree up this year, but I figured for the little one, we should.
Yeah, what's wrong with me? What do you think that is?
Bah humbug.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they say. I don't think it's a bah humbug thing. I think there's, if I'm being honest, like seasonally this time of year is starting to stress me out. Yeah. Like everybody's calling in with like, dude, you know, like we got to buy Christmas gifts and where's this going? And I have a deep rooted aversion to giving any big corporation any money right now, given the things that are going on. I'm watching small businesses around us really be challenged. So I'm like, where can we go to do that? And, you know, I think a lot of small business owners right now are like, look, I don't really want to think about buying Christmas gifts for folks. I've got the president of the United States telling us our economy's better than it's ever been. Employment's up. People are happy and all this stuff. And yeah, like all this kind of thing. I'm just going, am I weird? Like, am I
missing something?
Is it so different for me?
Yeah.
Because then I go out there in the street and I literally talk to my neighbors like, no, dude, we're fucked right now. So I don't think it's bah humbug. I just think it's like there's a lot of people who are feeling stressed out and stuff.
Uncertain times.
Yeah. Yeah. Uncertain times. Like, and this, I don't know if this winter is the winter for like is this going to be another winter of death and
destruction?
Death and destruction?
Like yeah.
I have no idea. But no, it's
discontent
not like,
and sorrow.
I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll feel it as we get a little closer. But I'm excited about some things in the new year. And I'm not about like the new year, new you shit. That stuff makes me want to throw up. But I think this is like reasonably speaking for a lot of people. It's a time where they're already kind of looking in to the next year, like from a business perspective, whether it's finance, business planning, things like that. And they're making some decisions about how they may need to attack, you know, certain things. And I mean that in a positive way, you know, whether that's their health, fitness. Again, that's kind of the cliched thing when we're looking at our business, but also, you know, what makes sense as we kind of kick off the year and start to make maybe some different decisions, or just want to make sure we're making the right decisions to ultimately hit our goals. We have downtime to do it.
Yeah.
Talking to folks.
It's a little slow.
It's slower, but busier in different ways. But you're having different conversations than you're having on the day-to-day because you're seeing family you haven't seen in a while. You're seeing friends you haven't seen in a while. You're a lot of holiday stuff. Anyway, so the reason I bring that up is just that, you know, we're closing out 2024 here, or 2023 as we get into 2024. There's several things I'm looking forward to in the next year. I just wonder what you guys were looking forward to.
You know what? That's a loaded question because I feel like the last several weeks have been living day to day as far as
just getting through.
Just getting through. I mean, we have a lot going on with the business right now as far as, you know, with staff and some really good changes. Excited for them.
Yep.
But we're also onboarding a couple new people and getting some of our coaches that we already have, you know, redirecting and stuff like that as far as, you know, things that they are supposed to be taking charge of. But I don't know, give me a second to think about this and then come back to me.
That's why I'm asking, because I thought we'd take a little time out to think about it. What about you, Steven? You in front of us on all this shit?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't, sometimes I forget like what time of year it is, or I don't really pay much attention to the calendar. So, every day is a new day to accomplish something great. But yeah, you know, continued professional development. I mean, I tend to reflect, more on like a day-to-day basis than like, all right, let me reflect on this entire year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, some continued professional education, certifications, things like that are coming down the pipe in the next like 6 months or so. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the main thing that I've been thinking about. I'm very focused.
You know, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
I didn't have that much left anyways.
I think, you know, we have a couple of things in the works as far as branching outside of Red Dot Fitness that we're working on. So Steven's leading one of our things up, and then Jones, the other coach, who was on one of the previous podcasts, he's working on expanding Red Dot Fitness beyond these walls. So that's kind of exciting. And it's returning to those tasks, or those projects, I should say, that we tried to do prior to COVID, and then COVID came, and so we put those on the back burner. So bringing those back, that's really exciting. Having some new coaches join us inside our walls, that's going to be exciting. So some fresh blood, fresh energy. And I think that, you know, getting them up to speed, but I mean, they're not new to the industry. It's just going to be getting them used to I guess how we do things, but then also learning from them as well. So a little bit of a symbiotic relationship there. And just to see where our online programming is going. I know in January, Ironsight's podcast is going to Vegas for SHOT Show. So you've got a lot of projects lined up there and interviews. So that's going to be exciting. That always is when you get people to sit down and talk with you.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to think about. Certainly with the business, but I can relate to this, Stephen, because I've always been sort of, particularly over the last several years, like seeing a year out in advance is a little bit rough. Like you want to have a vision, but having like clarity, a ton of clarity to it. I don't always find that. And I think a lot of the people that I work with and work around that I found to be the most successful, they have a vision and they're moving in a direction, but they're also very, very much in a position to kind of shift and change. And so to think that you have to have it all figured out, or think that you have to have all these very, very specific goals, and if you don't have those and are not on a calendar and you haven't verbalized it and you haven't told all your friends about it, that they're not going to get accomplished, I think
shouting
is
your affirmations
ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, so I think that's the reality. And from the day-to-day perspective, I think very much a lot of it is day-to-day because you have to get through each day, right? In order to get to the next day, in order to know what to do moving forward. And again, as you said, every day is a new day.
Yeah.
But when I kind of look short term, I always was kind of one of those people that looked at like 3-month increments, right? Like if I could just like, where do I see myself in about 3 months? And at that point, I'll kind of sit down and reevaluate or, reevaluate as I go. Is that the right plan? Is that the right goal? But setting some type of benchmarks or whatever, but it doesn't have to be so hard and fast that it limits you. Like you have to have some flexibility in your plan and planning in the way you view things in order to shift and ultimately be successful. That's been my philosophy for a very, very long time. So going into like today's Q&A, I think that's the attitude I would ask people to take as they're asking questions about like not ask them. I would suggest, when folks are asking questions, they think about more of like, hey, what can I control more on the day-to-day that helps me with that longer term goal and not try to get it all figured out all the time. Lately, we've answered some pretty specific questions about like, basically like, give me the answers for this particular thing. And then I hope people don't walk away going, good, I have all the answers and I'm good to go. We are just simply not in a position to give you those things. And you're an individual. So here we are. Yes, I'm excited about lots of things going into next year, lots of new teammates coming on board, going back to the whole COVID thing and people being in I would say a lot of people have been languishing, not kind of sure because the landscape has shifted and changed very much so in California, which is obviously very close to us. Folks are still trying to figure it out. We were still talking about like, are our tech companies going back to work just 6 months ago? They're still talking about this shit. So, if you think about that and the individuals at play there, if you don't know like where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing, it does, again, make sense to kind of step back and go, well, I don't know what the next 6 months are going to look like, but I certainly know what the next 6 days are going to look like. And if I can just get through those and have a solid plan for success, the 6 months will be here before I know it. And again, attacking it day to day. So that's kind of the position I would take like the new year in for me. It might be different for a lot of people because they may be very calendared and very, very calculated. But
yeah, I think that you can overanalyze and give yourself some anxiety if you're trying to plan out 6 months or 12 months in advance. And this is what I work on with my clients is, they may have a very broad goal to begin with, and then we work on narrowing that down into the daily action steps. And we do that in a systematic fashion because it can be, somebody comes to me and I want to lose 50 pounds. Like, okay, what goes into losing 50 pounds? A lot of things. And how can we narrow that down into bite-sized action steps that you can take today so that you're not thinking about, well, I need to get my sleep right and my exercise right, and I need to eat better, and I need to meditate, and I need to ice bath, and I need to hang upside down and, improve my cognitive function. You get going on a lot of different directions and you end up doing nothing because you're moving in way too many directions at once versus narrowing it down to, okay, what is like one portion of this goal that I can then break down into daily action steps? And let me just focus on what I can do today. And you will find that you take those daily action steps and you achieve your goals almost without you like, oh shit, I got there.
Right.
But I wasn't thinking 50-pound weight loss. I was thinking, whatever.
Yeah, you weren't
pound a week.
Yeah, you weren't overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
There was a vision, there was a path. This is the direction we're moving, but it could go, very much a lot of different directions along the way. However, there are fundamentals and skills that need to be applied in order to achieve this vision in the end. If I'm not focused on those and I'm being distracted, or the bright shiny object kind of flutters in the way, and I somehow take a right turn, well, I think that's where a lot of people get to. And I bet if people are listening that they look back and kind of their own journey this year, whether that was in the first week after New Year's in the new year, new you type shit, or if it was 1 month or 6 months or whatever, look back and go like, hey, what about the fundamentals did I stop applying? Because ultimately at the end of the day, with all the fancy shit that's going on out there that you can latch onto or buy into, or programs or whatever else, really, it really is fundamentals.
Yeah. Lose sight of the consistent fundamentals.
That's my message going into the new year. I don't know if that's motivating or not, but
yeah, I don't know either. But
Eli, hit us with that first question, man.
Question number 1. I'm extremely competitive and I've noticed the only way I stick with a fitness program is to sign up for some sort of athletic competition or event. What events do you recommend signing up for if my goals are to gain muscle, improve aesthetics, and live a better quality of life?
Steven, you could probably relate to like the competitive edge part, like just kind of right now with the running that you've been doing. I mean, you just literally completed another event last weekend. Seems like those are on the schedule about once a month for you.
Yeah, roughly. I mean, I think now the focus for these last 6 months and now going into 2024 for me is to maybe enter into events less frequently, but have them be better competition, bigger events, a little less frequency. So maybe more like, every 2 months, something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as that is something that does keep me, it does give me some structure, and it does help me periodize and plan my training. And it does kind of give me like that North Star to kind of look towards. When I all growing up, I was in competitive athletics. And then when my baseball career ended, there was kind of a period of maybe like 4 or 5 years where I wasn't really engaged in any type of competition. And I was still, working out. I was still staying in shape, but I did get to a point where I was like, okay, I'm kind of just going through the motions at this point. I'm bored. I'm just, okay, I'm already in shape. Aesthetically, I look good.
What's next?
What's next? Yeah. And then I sort of realized that competitive piece was missing. And that was when I started getting, a little more into the distance running. And that was when I kind of, made my foray into that area.
Yeah. I mean, that probably sounds pretty familiar to you, Cece. I mean, you were competitive for a long, long time until, excuse me. So was I, just getting involved in different events, whether it's multi-sport, there's the triathlon there, and then all the things that go along with that. Maybe it's getting into a bike race or a run, or, sometimes like a biathlon or a duathlon or something like that. I get that wanting to be competitive, because I was there too, much the same way you were. And I struggled to find what was going to work best for me. And so for this question, like, I think this is very natural, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. And I look at it going like, what's going to help me what's going to drive me to stay motivated like I was motivated before it was like getting on the field or getting on the mat and losing or winning and those kind of things. So how do you validate, the wins and the losses now as you're maybe out of competitive athletics? But specifically, they're asking like, what type of thing might I consider if my goal is to, build muscle, maybe lose a little body fat, stay in condition. And I'm gonna just start by maybe answering that and going pretty much anything, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that could go.
Yeah, so I mean, there's not a lot there. There's not a lot that I can think of where that shouldn't be a primary objective, and that is either building muscle or building strength, maintaining it, and then the power to weight ratio thing is different. So like if your goal is to be a sumo wrestler, then, losing weight, or losing body fat might not be, a priority for you, but the building strength piece or building muscle piece might be. The point is I think if you're looking for like an event to do, a couple things that you have to kind of put out in front of you as a competitor, right? First, like, where are you? Right? Where are you now in terms of your fitness level, your
Exercise age.
your exercise age, injuries that you may have had, like let's call it health and history in the past. And where are you specifically with your fitness? Because if you're not fit, I would not choose an event to get fit for as the drive or motivator to get fit. I would work to get fit first and then pick the thing that makes the most sense for you after you've dropped a little body fat, put on a little bit of muscle, build some capacity. Those are the fundamental things in order to even be able to do the event. And if you lose sight of those, then no matter what you pick, you likely might not be successful at it. And you might be just kind of going down a path that doesn't make you happy, right? That doesn't get you as fit as you think you could be, because you've picked like this event, in your case, the ultra, right, as fitness, right? Like if I just do an ultra, then that means I've achieved fitness.
Fitness right? Unlocked, yeah.
Yeah, fitness has been unlocked. Or if I do the triathlon, then I've achieved fitness. So I think those are things that are mindsets that people kind of need to get their head wrapped around. But again, like picking an event, I'd say get fit first, right? But if you're already fit, like this person says they're doing, then the most important thing I think people do in the exercise, one of the key things is that they enjoy it. So finding something that you really love. If you hate running, then don't do a fucking running event.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people, they like default to that. They just, 10K, half marathon. And then, they realize like, wait, but I fucking hate running. Why am I doing this? I tell people all the time when they say, oh, I should run like you. I'm like, should you though?
Yeah, right.
I actually enjoy it, but you might not. It's not required. That's not the definition of fitness is running.
Though, as far as like the barrier of entry for running, though, it's so low. All you need really is a pair of shoes.
Right.
And then as far as the amount of time that you're putting forth for running, depending on the distance and all of that, I mean, you can go out your front door wherever you're at if you're traveling or whatnot, and go for a run.
Yeah, so it's accessible for sure.
It's very accessible.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things with that is like, it's a great place to start. Like if you're like, I've never really done an event before, what could I do? Because of the accessibility, there's a 5K in town every weekend, wherever town you go to, there's something going on. And 5K really isn't that long. I mean, it might feel like an eternity if you're out of shape and you haven't been training, but it's not long. You don't have to dedicate a whole day to it.
And I think the other part of the question was, if this person's wanting to get strong and they're wanting to work on some aesthetics and they're wanting to work on, I think maybe you said something about, was it power? I don't know. But I mean, 5K is not that far as distance. So, I mean, you can still focus on strength and you can still focus on power. Whereas when you become more of an endurance athlete, I think it's going to be coming back to periodization as far as where you are within your running and where you're going to put in that strength training and what's that strength training going to like, and make sure that you're matching up your strength training with where you are in your distance running. So, it takes, I think, more planning and processing with the strength training and the longer distance running versus a 5K.
Yeah. So, I mean, the 5Ks or a running event is a really easy one for people to pick. And you can still do your strength training. And to your point, like the shorter the distance, you could be a big, powerful, athlete and still very easily complete.
You can run 3 miles. Yeah.
3 miles and potentially stay competitive, right? Like the big 260-pound power athlete is probably not going to be very competitive against the 150-pound gazelle that all they do is run in the long run. But you can be somewhat competitive in those shorter distances. So if competing and winning is important while still maintaining, these other, domains of fitness, that's an easy one. The other thing I would maybe think about here is like, what's important? Do I like team stuff? Is it something that I want to be competitive with the team and share this experience with other people versus, individual type sports? And so when you start, as we start getting out of the institution of education and things like that, the team aspect starts to kind of go away, right? Like it starts to turn into, well, now I'm doing that 5K or that 10K or that half or that full marathon or whatever. That's a really lonely space to be. It's usually you and you alone, right? But you can get it with running groups and train with folks that way. If you get into bike racing or triathlon, it's a very lonely road out there. But you could be looking at something like jujitsu, and martial arts, any type of martial art. But I particularly like that one because I think it's very, I don't know if this is the right word. It's utilitarian. It's very practical. But it's also what I find is the community there is generally very good. and let's just say very welcoming most of the time. It can be very kid and family friendly.
I was going to say there's different levels, so it can be very introductory as well.
Yeah. So yes. So if you're that person that's like been competitive and you have a lot of muscle and you are in pretty good shape, you want to go test that out. Go get on the jiu-jitsu mat. You'll find out real fast.
When Eli first read that question, that's where my brain went, was to something like jiu-jitsu, as far as, if somebody wants to work on strength and power and, aesthetics, what's something that they can enroll in where they can still be competitive. And if something like jiu-jitsu is of interest, then because there are so many levels of where you can enter, and so many, I'm not sure of the terminology, but places that you can go even as a guest. The places that we've visited, they're always very welcoming. And so you can get on the mat just about anywhere and roll. And it's going to test your endurance. It's going to test your strength. It's going to test your grip and your resiliency. But you're also going to be very humbled at the same time. But I think that's also those individuals, when they go into that sport, they're humble individuals anyway.
Well, if you stay in it long enough, you're gonna turn into one. Otherwise, it becomes a miserable prospect. But part of it is it's a competition every day. So when you hit the mat, and not in a negative way, it's you're competing with yourself. You're competing with maybe whoever's on the mat with you. But it's there's a competitive aspect every single day. So that might in and of itself, it's not like I'm doing this to get into a tournament and win. I'm doing this so that I can continue to build skills. You will be tested on a regular and daily basis by the different people that are in the room, by your own brain and body, to have to figure things out. I find that journey is very, very valuable. I'm very disappointed that my body is so fragile in some sense that it doesn't handle it very well anymore, because I enjoyed that competition every day, on the mat. And you can do it multiple days. These are things you can do every day of the week if you'd like. It might not be the best for you, but it's certainly continuing your strength training. And while the aesthetics piece doesn't necessarily need to be a goal when you're on the mat in order to be great at jiu-jitsu, if you're minding your nutrition, and if you're minding your recovery and your sleep and your fitness outside of jiu-jitsu, you can be in tremendous shape.
That could be a byproduct, right?
Yeah, tremendous shape in terms of feeling fit.
On the aesthetic side, though, I think we have to introduce one. What about the bodybuilding and the physique shows? Because I think a lot of people, I've seen quite a few people kind of go from fat to fit for a physique show or for a bodybuilding show.
Such an extreme choice.
Yeah.
Such an extreme choice. But yes, we see that a lot. And to your point about the running, they're very accessible now, particularly for the females, on the bikini side of things. And that world 100% blew up probably in the last 10 years. It got a little funky there during COVID, but still very popular. Particularly for maybe the younger folks, but you're seeing some of the masters types classes even open up. But there's a show, they're somewhat seasonal, but there's a show every weekend, just like the 5Ks and whatever, that you could train for. That is something you could do. It's obviously very, the strength and hypertrophy components are very important there. So that's very, very focused. But at the same time, like some people go, dude, jiu-jitsu is extreme, or a 5K, fuck that, man. That's ridiculous. That's way out there versus the bodybuilding show, or the fitness or figure show. But it is something you could do. And there's one thing I can tell you from my own experience with that is I learned so much about me during that process. There's suffering.
It can be transformative for a lot of people.
For sure. There's commitment. Yes. There's commitment piece. There's a discipline piece. There's obviously like being regimented. I think that's different than discipline. Just making sure that, you're staying on a schedule, and I had a very positive experience doing it, and I learned a ton. And, I will say this though, I think it can be a slippery slope, just like anything, in that, more is not necessarily better, and, you need to be careful, and I think you need to be well planned there. But that is one way. That is one thing to do. It's not the first recommendation I'm going to give somebody, just because I think my experience has been there's a
little sideways.
There's a dark side to all of this. And I think it also attracts somebody that may already have a propensity for moving to the dark side, maybe more than somebody else. While discipline, let's just say discipline, commitment, toughness, certainly plays well for the person that gets into this in terms of being competitive. It's also like, what do they call it? Like a character flaw almost. Like it can kind of lead you down I've seen the darkness that kind of exists there, and it's not cool. And we've had to rescue people out of that here to some extent over the years. So another good one, but it doesn't have to be that either. There's other things, like your body's a little bit broken and running's not going to happen, and bodybuilding doesn't interest you at all. Man, there's all kinds of stuff. And this might be totally off base, but like we're near the ocean here. There's a lot of surf competitions and things like that. And again, that you can get into if you just want to do something like surf. There's nothing wrong with having muscle on your frame and working on your strength there for sure. Just I think there's so many options. I pulled that one out randomly just to get people to think about. Fuck, I never thought about that. Like there's I've never even tried that before. I have access. My brother's got a board hanging in his garage that he hasn't used in 10 years. Maybe I can try. Think about doing something you've never done, right? That aligns with who you are and what you're trying to do. But I can't think of a sport out there where strength, we're continually working on your strength, and your physique at some level can't be, part of the process.
Question number 2. I want to start working out in 2024, but I haven't touched a gym consistently in a few years. Do I start with mobility, flexibility, nutrition, strength training, cardio, or something else? Can you give me the step-by-step progression of what I should do?
This plays right into kind of how we opened the show with regard to like people wanting the answer, like the step-by-step. Man, this is a lot to unpack there. Let's try to keep it basic, as we were mentioning, like try to stay focused just with the fundamentals. I love that somebody's like, where should I start? Like, is it mobility? Because I heard if I'm not mobile, then things get bad. Is it the strength? I'm going to get injured. Is it the strength thing? Or should I lose a little body fat by doing cardio first do I need to get fit before I get fit? Kind of thing. And that's not to take away from this person's question, but man, you hear all kinds of stuff. I mean, I think you got to look at this from a 30,000 foot view first, right? And what they're asking about is probably more like the 15,000 foot view right now in terms of what they suggested. And then obviously it goes down to, right on the ground and what is actually happening in each one of those, say, maybe domains or components of the journey. So I think we got to stay really high in answering the question, like, where do you start? I'll start by just saying, first off, you have to be acutely aware of where you currently stand. Mm-hmm. And we mentioned this in the last question.
Need a baseline, yeah.
Yeah, we got to get a baseline. So what's your fitness history look like? What's your health history look like? What's your training age? The person said they hadn't been training in quite, in a couple of years. They're looking to get back into it. So they already have probably some level of experience in some things, but probably not a lot in these other things. And, I love the way they're approaching it. Like, man, I'm going to do it this time, and I want to make sure I do it the right way, so I'm not asking the same question 3 years from now after I haven't been working out for 3 years. So yeah, staying up top and just understanding where you are. Like, what's your level of fitness right now? What are you dealing with, right? But also, like, what's going on in life? Like, what I like to kind of look at is like, what are your potential limiters? Time, access to certain things that you might choose to get and stay fit is one thing. Finance may play into this at some level. One of the other things that I think people, don't take into account is like, when you look at training age and you look at kind of where you are in life, like it makes sense that you could do an hour a day of exercise or 2 hours a day of exercise or whatever, because the reality is you don't need to do that. So when you do this evaluate, you don't need to do that right now. Maybe sometime later. What you need to do is just find like, what is reasonable for me? Not what should I do? What can I do right now? Mm-hmm. And then as the can starts to be met, then you'll start to I find people typically start to find more room for hey, I probably should be doing a little bit more. Maybe it's going a little longer. Maybe it's going a little less, but maybe it's going a little longer. Maybe it's going more frequently, things like that. So not the what should I do and try to rearrange your life around that. If my life didn't change at all, and maybe it needs to change a lot, but if it didn't change at all, where would I fit this into my day reasonably? Yeah.
I mean, I think action or motivation follows action. So yeah, where can you get started? And then you can kind of, maybe work backwards from getting started with something. I mean, I think, when when I'm working with someone for the first time, we actually go over like kind of, well, these are the domains that we can work within. We can work within nutrition. We can work within movement. We can work within, sleep. We can work within stress management. Of these 4 domains, which is the highest priority for you? Which do you feel is like the biggest obstacle for you right now? Which do you feel is the biggest challenge for you right now? Because if you try to tackle all of them simultaneously, you're probably going to get overwhelmed, analysis paralysis, and you end up going nowhere. You end up spinning around in circles. So yeah, I guess beginning with, okay, what am I looking to achieve? What am I looking to get out of this? Maybe what is it that, what is driving me to get back into the gym? Or, what in my life is not going the way I would like it to go? And what am I trying to answer? What question am I trying to answer? What gap am I trying to fill? Does that make sense? So, you need to ask yourself that question first. What am I looking to accomplish? What am I looking to achieve out of this? What changes am I looking to see in my life? And then you can kind of reverse engineer from there. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you nailed it. I think the question we're trying to answer is the why. Like, why am I doing this? And then that answers, you gets deeper into the what is important, what isn't, what are my negotiables, my non-negotiable type of things that we can examine there. But it's 100% like, why am I doing this? And that needs to be really well developed because that's the thing that's going to, that's really like your compass at the end of the day to come back to, like, why am I doing this today? Like, I don't want to go to the gym. What's going to get me to go there? Like, I don't want to eat, I don't want to meal prep, but why do I know I need to meal prep, and what's going to happen if I don't do it? Like, all that stuff needs to be, kind of played out. So I think that's super important. And in that process, that needs to be developed for you and by you, not by somebody else. They might be able to help you through the thought process, but at the end of the day, this has to be all about you. Don't go out there and try to adapt, or borrow somebody else's why in terms of your fitness plan as you're jumping back into your fitness, your workout part of your fitness journey. So that's really important. That is a 30,000 foot view item that has to get checked off to really answer any of the other questions specific to, again, mobility, strength training, cardio, all of that.
Specifics.
Yeah. Because then you can you get a little closer to the 15,000 foot view. Now, part of the question is like, where should I start with different things? So again, thinking a little higher level, well, the first thing, that most people struggle with the most is just capacity, their ability to do work. And that is, how much weight, how many weightlifting days can you have, and cardio days can you have, and how many recovery days do you need to program, and all of that stuff? How much recovery do you need in between in order to reap the rewards and enjoy the benefits of what it is that you're putting in? So, when we're looking at capacity, it really just means getting started, as you said, on something, and try not to overcomplicate this. Building capacity could be like building muscular strength, building muscular endurance, building cardiovascular endurance, building some level of resiliency, and we can start breaking it down to like your tissue levels, like your nervous system, and we can obviously we have to start talking about nutrition, all of those things. But before we get there, let's talk about just getting started on something that's going to build that capacity. And what do I mean? I mean, you need to think about like, what can I do? Like in those days that I've decided I can do it, what can I do that I can reasonably build upon, that I'm not going to be limited by, or I'll have very few limitations by or through, that will put me in a position to continually progress this in a way that makes sense. So like if I get an extra day, would it make sense for me to do an extra day of this particular activity, right? If I had extra time, like, would it make sense for me to do more of this activity, or is that the time where I could be adding in some of these other things? Something complementary and things like that. And also what I would want to do just in terms of my overall health and fitness, and we talk about this a lot on the show, is we know that the people that are stronger, people with more muscle on their frame, just tend to do better in many, many areas in life in terms of their health. Obviously, there's a spectrum to all of this. But some type of a program and frequency and things that if I was going to pick some exercise that would improve my strength, right? It would improve my cardiovascular capacity, would from a physiological, perspective and an anatomical perspective, bring things to the table that are going to help me build a hormone profile, or maybe help me with my hormone profile in terms of doing the things I want to do. I don't know anybody that doesn't want to look better naked, right? So, we're talking about being a little bit more anabolic, driving particular hormone responses, and at the same time, not overdoing it where I'm driving other responses within the body that would challenge me in my ultimate goal of being healthier and living longer for me, and or aesthetically looking better, all of those things. And when I think about the activity that makes the most sense for that, it is lifting weights. It is resistance training. So again, going back to where should I start? When you resistance train, you are impacting all of those things when applied properly, right? There's the concept of individuality here. Like if you, and I don't want to go into the rabbit hole on this with regard to like mobility and strength training and things like that, but mobility or lack thereof is usually a function of a lack of strength, right? So if we can...
A lack of strength and lack of moving, right?
So if we starting moving and we start to build capacity and we start do this through some resistance training, you're going to build cardiovascular fitness. Applied appropriately, you're going to start to build some mobility, right? Those are things, like the very specific parts of that are things that get layered on later, but we build muscle through good movement quality as best as we can do, right? And then we can start to take a look at, to your point, Stephen, like, okay, where should I be spending or layering on a little bit more of other things? Where should I be spending more time? Like, oh, there's some specific mobility training I could be doing here. Or I'm really strong and my mobility is really great, but my cardiovascular fitness sucks. Like I just don't have any in the tank to go longer. This might be helpful for me to address here. The nutrition piece, we've talked about this on the show before, and that is like a lot of people want to go all in with the nutrition and the exercise program all at the same time, and they wind up committing to stuff they can't stick to. So
not advisable.
Yeah, not advisable. So let's take a little bit of each and find out what we can do. And I would approach nutrition exactly the same way as we approach the exercise. So with each one of those components, zoom back out and look at where can I get the most benefit here. So, where do I start? It starts with why are you doing what you're doing and what is it exactly that you're trying to accomplish? Because then every question you ask and every answer you come to should lead back to that in the chart. I mean, that might not be as specific as somebody wants to hear, but I wonder where you guys might chime in on all that.
As far as the way the two of you laid it out at the very beginning, I mean, I think you stated it really well. I think that, for an individual getting into this specifics of something, you're taking a very myopic view, and you need to have a 30,000 foot view as far as, what your lifestyle is like, what it is you want to achieve. So then you can better analyze what's going on and how you're going to approach it. Because if you don't have a roadmap and you don't have that view, then I feel like it's just a bunch of chaos. You're just trying to hit every specific thing, and then you're going to end up getting, frustrated and eventually throwing the towel in, and you're not going to really achieve anything at that point.
Yeah, I think there's a pitfall for that with that.
Yeah. I mean, you need to determine your destination before you determine what route you're going to take. Mm-hmm. I think that is, that's the first thing that you need to do. And then from there, identify what the larger goal is, and then begin to identify what skills are necessary what skills do I need to build in order to achieve that goal, and then break those skills down further into what are the daily practices, weekly practices, or daily actions that I need to take to build the skills that will help me achieve the goal.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when you start to look at that, it sounds like a lot, man. I mean, that's a lot of stuff, and you're probably not going to know it all. So here's a couple of recommendations. Get a coach. I mean, that's what coaches do. Good coaches will help you start with that very, very specific question at the beginning and maybe walk you through it. And it's not that they're giving you the why or they understand what that is. They might be able to tease it out of you in a way that you hadn't really thought about it yet. And you might go in with one thinking that that's the answer, and then you might begin to understand that it's actually something else, which is really important in terms of what happens next and the things that you do. So a coach is a really great way to identify and help you through these processes.
It's investing in yourself. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be long-term that you're, signing on with a coach. But I mean, it could be, 3 months, 6 months, or even a year. I mean, but it doesn't have to be forever.
Yep.
You have somebody that's going to guide you through this process. And then, when you think you have a handle on it, maybe take the training wheels off and go for a ride. And then if you need to check back in, you've got a resource there.
Yeah, you can always go back for a tune-up.
Yeah.
Another, like if you've been through that process before and you kind of understand it, but you're looking for some direction based on your very specific goal, like building strength and muscle, right? Or building strength and power, like, more athletically, or I really want to take a look at this nutrition. I have some stuff under my belt. I have some nutrition experience. Some things have worked for me in the past, but I've been running into some troubles or I never quite dialed it in. Look for a program that caters to that. I mean, that might not necessarily be working directly with the coach, but like Red Dot Fitness Strong or Max or Fuel U. Are all those programs that we were like, for this specific reason, almost for this question, like, okay, you've had some experience, you're kind of there, you just maybe need a little bit more direction, the template's very helpful for you, and you like materials and things to help you problem solve your own stuff, and maybe, reach out to somebody if you have a very specific question that we might be able to help you with. That's where those products come in. So yeah, just zoom out, start answering some questions first, right? And that's the larger questions first. And then that'll help you with, like, I think more specifically where you need to be. And a great program, a good coach and a great program is going to make sure that you hit those things the way you need to hit them for you. There is no one size fits all, but there are really great frameworks that you can work within so that you don't have to worry about answering all those detailed questions. They kind of work themselves out for you. But zoom out.
Next question. I want to get help with my fitness this year, but I'm not sure whether to hire a personal trainer, PT, chiropractor, somatic therapist, nutrition coach, health practitioner. There's so many options. Without knowing everything about me, what are some of the key roles of popular health practitioners, and who should I choose or avoid for what reason?
Let's talk about who we choose to work with, and then let's talk about who we choose to avoid, because I think that will directly answer some of these questions, or this is a big question. When I look at like who do we choose to work with, I have some very specific things that come to mind. But I wonder about you guys. What pops up right away in terms of like if I'm going to align myself with somebody or refer business back and forth or whatever, what are some prereqs?
In terms of the qualities that they have, or in terms of the services that they offer?
I think all of it.
I think all of it, but I would think let's zoom out and just look at like if no matter where they're coming from, like whether it's like, let's say nutrition versus, like physical therapist or chiropractor or whatever. For me, there's some very specific things that come up. So let's stay zoomed out. Like,
Cece, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm reading the question and thinking about it. We've talked about individuality. We talk about, each person and where they're at as far as in their life's journey. So if you're wanting to get fit, or I think that was the question, get fit or start exercising in 2024, where do you start? Get help with fitness. Then you go to your fitness experts. And that might take some research as far as who you choose. But, I think, Scott, you say this, probably going to mess it up. But if it's something about like, you don't take your car to, I don't know, get an oil change. You want to help me out with the saying?
I love it. Cece can't ever seem to get these right. It's awesome. I love that she tries. No, it's
Will you make the analogy for me?
Yeah, I mean, and this one's a little harsher, but here is one. It's not an analogy. It's just kind of I think it's a piece of advice. Don't go to your general practitioner and ask them about nutrition.
Oh, well, yeah, but there was a car one that I was going for.
You might as well go to your plumber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You might as well go to your plumber because they probably know as much or more than the other guy. And that's a harsh statement, but the reality of it is fucking true.
It's true.
So, like, yes, be careful. Like when you're going to, the why has to be answered to like, what exactly do I need or want? But this is general fitness advice. I know a ton of chiropractors that are fitness experts. I know a ton of physical therapists that are also fitness experts in their own right, but they don't practice the fitness side of what they do
day in and day out.
Yeah, day in and day out. Just like I know, practitioners that have that are doctors of physical therapy, but spend more time coaching. and that's their thing. And so, they're not spending their day in and day out actually doing these treatments and that are required by insurance and all that stuff. So that might not be the right person to go to. So understanding who that practitioner is and what their
skill sets and what their expertise is. Yeah.
But I think more importantly for me is like what I want to know. I want to know what they love and why they love it. So those are questions that I would ask before I work with somebody, or refer business across to them or so forth. So I need somebody that can communicate. That's that is a number one priority for me. So when you're choosing somebody, you should be able to sit down and have a conversation with them about whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, but also almost you're interviewing them just like they're interviewing you. And that should feel very natural and
very conversational.
If they're doing a good job, I truly believe this, they don't have to sell you anything, right? They shouldn't need to. Because if you're aligned and we're moving in the same direction, you're going to find those common grounds, and you'll probably very quickly realize if this is the right fit for me. And it might not be the right fit for me on the fitness side of things, but damn, right? If I need some type of other soft tissue manipulation or something like that that's outside the scope of the fitness coach, like this is the chiro or this is the physical therapist or massage therapist or whatever that I want to work with. Because a lot of people cross over because a lot of these practitioners / coaches cross over because that's how they're going to help their clients the best. But the most important skill I think they have is a communication skills. And that might be a little tougher to assess for the unassuming user or buyer or whatever, but that's very, very important to me.
I would say for a professional to professional, then yes, that conversation and knowing who that other person is on the other side. But if you're talking about like what Eli put forth as far as this is an individual who's looking to get help with their fitness program and where to start, then that's going to require research on that individual's part, and they're not necessarily going to know the questions to ask, or maybe they will, but I mean it's going to take more work.
Yeah, I think the question really boils down to, I guess, like who is worth hiring? Is that essentially what the question kind of boils down to, if I'm understanding it correctly?
I think so.
Who is worth?
Who do you go to?
Yeah, who is worth paying? Like as far as the number of professionals that I can choose from, who should I spend my money with first? Who's worth it and who's not worth it? And that really boils down to like, what do you need? Like, I mean, that's kind of why I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on this question as far as, well, what do you need? Do you feel that nutrition is the biggest obstacle for you? Well, then you should hire a nutritionist or a nutrition coach. Do you feel that exercise is the biggest issue? Do you have all kinds of physical limitations? Then chiropractor or physical therapist. Yeah,
I think going back to if I go down the like, what are my prerequisites? First, they need to be able to communicate well. Secondly, they need to be focused on education. They need to be able to effectively communicate to their client or whoever their patient is or whatever, what's happening, why it's happening, how to get better, and taking different routes, through this problem set, and applying different things, how that may or may not impact them positively or negatively. This then comes in with the red flag for me, the things that I won't work with somebody on, and that is somebody trying to sell a boxed solution for somebody's individual problem. And what I mean by that is like you go into a place and they go like, oh, you're the perfect client for us because we have the perfect program that does this very specific thing just for you. And you're going to get that very specific result that you told me you were going to get because we've already figured it out. We have the magic formula or whatever. I guess my point is like, oh, no problem. You just sign up for 3 weeks of this at this minute, this frequency for this much money, and you will get to your result. I will not ever work with somebody that tries to sell fitness or sell healthcare or wellness at any level like that. That is a red flag. So I would stay away from that. Rather, it's a person that in the communication process, which is part of the research, right, and is trying to educate you, provide you some options for solutions based on your very individual goals, your very individual health and fitness history, your very individual limitations. We've talked about this before. All of those things have to go into this process, and then is confirming with you that they have all of the information that they think they need. Like, is there anything else I need to know here, or what other things do we need to cover before we move forward on this particular plan that we're trying to put together for you? So again, it's not a cookie cutter plan. It's something that at some level is individualized for you. Now, again, there are frameworks that people can work within, and we do that here. You have to, like, that's what it is. But within the framework, like, it's not no problem. You just do this and you get result. Do A, B, C.
A plus B equals C.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So I'm going to stay away from folks like that. That one bothers me. If you got, I think another one, to look for in terms of like what it is, again, assessing who the right person is for you. I like people that work well with other people and recognizes, I'm not going to say and stays in, because I just said I know physical therapists that are really great coaches and spend a lot of time. We just had Dr. David Skolnick on. The dude's a phenomenal strength coach and personal trainer, but spends his day as a physical therapist. He teaches coaches, right? On both sides. He teaches physical therapists. I guess my point with that is also understands his lane, right? At some level. So if somebody's coming to him, or if you're going to him and you're getting great coaching and even great treatment, but you want to go very specific or a deep dive into the nutrition aspect. I'm not saying Dave doesn't know. I'm just saying, if you want to go there, then go see somebody that's what they do. That's what they love. And the guys and the people that do really well with what they do and take a lot of, have a lot of passion and have made a huge commitment to the ongoing education and helping people, and they actually have a book of clients, they likely know the people that kind of, that complement the, I don't want to say weakness, but the skill or the thing that they don't, so that their clients can get that help, and they have a very good referral basis. So, when you're picking somebody, if you already know, like if you have a really good physical therapist, and you're like, well, I really like some fitness coaching. Most of the best physical therapists I know really good fitness coaches, because they understand we can only do so much for this person here. They need to go on and do something else. So that's something that I'd be looking for in sort of almost like a network of professionals that you could work with. And those are questions you could be asking, in your interview, in your interview process. Who else do you work with in these different areas of health and wellness? Massage therapists, nutritionists, chiropractors, acupuncturists, all of that, nutritionists, if I didn't already mention that, all of that kind of stuff.
Last question. I've been listening to the show this year and I'm ready to get started with RDF products. I'm pretty fit and have an athletic background, but want to follow programs and step things up this year. If you were to recommend a roadmap for the year based on what you guys offer, where should I start and what should I be looking to progress into later on in the year?
This goes right back to the beginning of our podcast when we talked about how to plan things out. And we're ahead of you on this one. We have, kind of thought through this. And it kind of goes in that format that I mentioned with regard to taking things in chunks, just like you talked about, Stephen. Like, what are the bite-sized things? Taking chunks off that are manageable, that I can control, understand, and then move to the next thing. So mapping out your program, when we talk about this, is just, again, having a vision and where you're trying to get to. It starts with the why. But if this is somebody that's like, they're looking to build strength, power, be a little bit more athletic, stay generally healthy and fit, then one of the things that they should be thinking about right off the bat is making sure they get into some type of programming that goes different directions, maybe even undulates throughout the year. So we're not doing too much of anything, but we're also getting enough of the things to help us continue to progress. And then also give us time and space to be able to look at, like, what and flexibility, what might I need to focus on a little bit here? Where are my strengths and my weaknesses? And then also like, this thing came up during, this particular part of the programming, like that shoulder thing that I had a long time ago kind of crept back up on me, or that ankle thing or whatever else. So does it have flexibility, or does it provide room to go a little bit different direction so that you can parallel and then slowly work your way back into the program, rather than it's just templated, and if you don't do this, then the program falls apart. There's nothing for the individual in that. It's all, well, if you can't do it this way, then the program doesn't work. I think it's kind of the overview statement. I don't know how you guys kind of see how that works or doesn't work, or if there's things you want to add to it.
I think a good way to maybe approach this would be, if you have a base and, you're athletic and you've been strength training, if you want to try out our online membership, our online membership has a variety of different programs, physique or total body conditioning. We also have some high intensity interval programs in there, as well as mobility. If you want something that has more of a linear structure, then we have RDF, Strong, and Max.
I think when you're planning out the year, you're kind of looking at like, how am I going to handle my fitness and what am I going to commit myself to? A lot of people are like, okay, well, I need to go join a gym or I need to go join a program. And there's always in the back of a buyer's head, like, well, what if this doesn't work out for me? Like, what if it's not the right program? What is it? What if it's like, I don't like it here? What if I move? They're already thinking about quitting before they've even started. That is just part of the process that a coach and a consumer needs to understand. So we kind of got to get past that. And I think ways to get past that, and I've mentioned this before, is just like making sure we have flexibility. Like you don't have to necessarily marry yourself to anything long term. Let's look at a vision, make sure that we've got, if you're going to go join a gym or join a program, that it has room to have some flexibility. And yes, if you wanted to quit the program and give it up altogether, then yeah, you could do that. You can do that with any program, right? It doesn't matter what piece of paper you're signing or, what agreement you're making. Like there's a way out. But again, that's stinking thinking, and I wouldn't go into it that way. But I also understand from the consumer's perspective, I want to make sure I'm set up for success. What means success? Something that's something that can be adjusted for me and where I am right now. I'll have some options. And then once I maybe figure this thing out a little bit more and I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable, getting a little bit more fit, I have additional options. It may progress into different things, and I can then discover along the way what are the things that I could be doing or should be doing, because I might have a very different vision in month 1 than I do and than I have in month 6. And I know nearly every consumer in the fitness business that I've ever worked with ever wants to know and feel good about getting some support. Because no matter how confident they come into it and whatever their experience has been in the past, they're there because they're looking for some type of a solution. And whatever they've been doing maybe isn't working the way they want. So getting in and having confidence that I can get some support at somewhere along here, and I'm not going to be nickel and dimed for this support because I'm already committing to your program. So like, what's included and what isn't, kind of thing, to make it very, very clear for people. So one of the easiest things that people can do, with regard to Red Dot Fitness is get involved in the online membership program. Mm-hmm. Because jumping into it, number one, it's a very low barrier of entry from a cost perspective. It's a month-to-month program, right? You can stay on it for as long or as little as you like. Again, so I'm going to get past all the you've quit before you've even started thing. If you hate it, hey, no big deal, right? You're not committed to anything long-term if you don't want to be. If you'd like to commit more to it long-term, yes, you could save a little bit of money if you do that. That's how these things work. But the bottom line with that online membership is it has multiple programs in it that fit multiple different fitness levels, and it also will support multiple different goals. It is not going to be an individualized program for you within that membership. It is basically, we have lined out these programs. They are periodized based on as an example, based on what the basic goals might be. As an example, if you're purely trying to build aesthetics, physique is the program you want to be on. It's the one everybody loves. It's the more bodybuilding-esque, not necessarily bro split type workout, but it would feel very familiar. And it's laid out in front of you. You can see your workouts there for a month, ahead of time. You get the access to the things that you've already done. You can log your workouts. You can do all that stuff. It gives you a really good platform for getting things started the right way for yourself. Anybody can do it. I don't necessarily recommend a total novice starting there, but anybody could do it. And that's the flexibility you get. You want to do that? Go right ahead. It's the same as if you wanted to get into RDF Strong, with our total body conditioning program within there. You just need to you're ready to build some capacity, learn how to do some exercises. This isn't too complicated, but it does stay interesting. Unlike physique, those physique programs are very much the same week in and week out with some variable adjustments. But within the total body conditioning program, we give you a little bit more variability of exercises from week to week.
Variety.
Some people need that. And so I'll kind of just leave it with, and if you wanted, more endurance based or cardiovascular based, there's programs in there for that too. So there's 7 programs within the membership that you can get involved in. So, and it allows you tons of flexibility, tons of freedom, and direct access to us here at the gym. It's not one person. It's not a bot. It's not it's not a chat. It's not like some offshore, call center, at the chat or something on it. You get direct access to us. You could literally pick up the phone and call us if you wanted to, but there's a message room built right into that thing where you hit us, we're going to hit you back specific to your question. It's not like an algorithm or some shit like that. So I think it gives people the flexibility that they need.
And the variety.
And the variety that they need. So
yep. That online program too, we've talked about this in I think one of our other podcasts, and it has the mobility program in there as well. And
very underutilized, by the way.
Very underutilized and often overlooked. So I think that right there in and of itself is a huge value add to that online membership.
Yeah, it's new to us in the last couple of years, just that sort of is a necessity to be able to put out a membership online where we're not actually having hands on our clients like when they come into the gym. But it's pretty freaking close. It's as close as we can get, to handling the logistics or geography of you might be in, Idaho and we're here in California and we're able to provide you, the stuff that our members get when they come in. So yeah, I mean, I'm actually really proud of the way that we try not to overcomplicate it. And so I think that's an important thing in these online programs is people don't get confused. However, it is pretty robust. There's a lot of stuff in there. And so it gives a lot of variety to people, way more than generally, when you're buying into one of these memberships, what you're getting is like one thing. You're getting like, this is the workout program that we give. This is a little bit different than a lot of what you'll see out there. And again, the trying it before you buy it or fear of commitment thing, totally get it. I'm going to address it. Do the 1 week trial, for God's sakes. It's free. Get on for 1 week. Right? You
get a whirl.
Yeah, get on for a week. It allows you to kind of see the different programs. It doesn't give you, a week, I don't know what you reasonably expect in terms of getting all this programming out in front of you, but you're going to see the different varieties of the programs, how it's laid out. Does this look like it could work for me? If you have more questions, you can always hit us. And again, it's super simple. You can either do a year or do month to month after that if you want. And we might even give you a discount.
And you know what? You don't even have to put your credit card down when you do your 7-day pass. Like some of those programs do.
That's a really good point. That's actually a really good point. Some of the people that sell these programs might actually go, well, that's stupid. Why wouldn't you collect that up front and then they get the credit the week? We're not fucking around with this. Like, it's like, hey, if you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine with us too. Yeah. That's fine with us too. Yeah, it's a totally free, you're giving us your name and your email. I mean, you got to give us something, right?
Yeah.
In order for us to give you access to the platform. But yeah, that's a very good point. Like, there's no monetary thing here. There's zero catch to this. And I think, that's helpful for people that may have been on and off, online programs and purchase things, whatever. We try to make this barrier entry very, very low and nearly as frictionless as we possibly could.